kind of calls to mind that old adage. It's not about what you did with what you had. It's about what you could have done with what you had.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do that?
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Never Settle Mindcast. I got a very, very good guest today. Good personal friend of mine, upstanding gentleman, very experienced trial lawyer, representing clients and their families through injury matters, both in state and federal court and trials, all the way through verdicts, obtaining multi-million-dollar outcomes for these families to help them put some closure on their lives and move forward. Without any further introduction, let's jump right in. This is my good friend, Josh Braddock.
Jason, my man.
How you doing, man?
Doing great, buddy. Doing great. Good to be here. Super stoked on the new podcast you got going on. You're doing some really good stuff, man. So thanks so much for letting me be here and be a part of it. Yeah, truly honored.
It's ours, man. Thanks for coming on, and I appreciate you dressing up. You look nice. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. I asked my wife last night what I should wear. She said a suit. Only a suit. You got to dress the part.
That's right.
Hey, to her credit, she dropped a little MJ comment. She's like, what would Michael Jordan do?
Oh.
She's like, he wore a suit everywhere he went. You know why? Because he didn't know who he was going to meet for the first time that day. And I said, babe, well, if MJ did it, I guess I have to as well.
I want to be like Mike.
Yeah.
Still. And that's appropriate because I fell asleep watching The Last Dance last night.
Golly. I could fall asleep every night watching The Last Dance. How good was that?
It's so good.
God.
You know?
Just, it's so fascinating. His mindset, like one of the greatest competitors that ever lived, and just to hear him talk about competition and like the ways that he would get himself up for competition, and it was so cool, man. Just because like it was like the same thing over and over again. He's like, so he walked into the restaurant. He didn't want to say hi to me. I said, okay, that's how you're gonna play it. Okay. He just manufactured this slight, and then he'd go in and just murder whoever it was the next night. So. Anyways, really cool, man. Really
it's
cool.
the best. They had that story last night. It was like episode 8 where he's talking about the bullets, and they had a back-to-back, and the first one in Chicago, like the rookie got him, and after the game he said, "Hey, nice game, Mike," and he's like, "Well, now I gotta dominate him."
Yeah.
And so he did. He's like, went to Washington, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna put up what that kid put up in the first half," and he outscored him in the first half. And 20 years later, it comes out that he never said that. He just made it up.
So good, man. But like, yeah, it's so great just seeing a profile on what's going on in a guy like that's head. And it's inspiring. It makes you want to get out there and just hit it harder and just be the absolute best of who you can be. You know, he talked a lot about Kobe and the mindset that Kobe had, you know, and it was that same thing. Just a true artisan of their craft, right? They got up early. They stayed late. They put in those work. They put in that work and they put in those reps. And then it showed, right? It showed on the court.
Every time.
Yeah. Showed off the court. I mean.
Yeah. There was no, active rest with those guys. You
know
what I mean? There was no, like, take a play off here, there.
Yeah.
They use their defensive time to put in more effort to set up offense.
Yeah.
You know, where, like, a lot of guys now think, hey, we're active rest. I'm still on the court, so I'm helping my team, but they're really not playing the level of D they can. And that was one of my, we're a little off topic now, but it's on topic for me because I love mindset and I love sports.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest issue with LeBron. Like, biggest issue. You're the best in the world. Right now, no one can compete with that. There are other people that are getting close, but he's so big, so dominant, so smart at the game of basketball. He can dominate every possession, every game.
True.
He can do it. And he chooses not to. That's my issue with him because I grew up with MJ, and then the closest we got was Kobe. And this new wave of athlete in LeBron, he's great. I'm not knocking LeBron, but I know how I see his potential. I see what he's leaving on the table because when he wants to turn it on, he does it. And he did it against my Warriors, and I'll never forget it. And I'm like, this guy.
Yeah.
And so everyone's like, why do you have a problem with LeBron? That's it. Is because no one else, like MJ he didn't take a day off. He didn't take a game off or a series off.
Yeah.
If he's there, he's coming to win. right?
It's a great point, man. It's a great point. It's kind of calls to mind that old adage. It's not about what you did with what you had. It's about what you could have done with what you had. Did you do that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a good reminder. We all have different talents. We all have different gifts. We all have different skill sets. Are you utilizing it to the highest good, or are you just wasting it? Are you, not to say that LeBron's wasting his skill set by any means, but at the same time, like, it's just a good reminder to all of us, right?
Yeah.
Are we getting up and doing absolutely everything we can with what we've been blessed with on a daily basis? Are we letting those days pass us by, right?
Yeah.
You know, so.
Exactly, man. So let's go back to the beginning, wrestling gators in the Everglades.
Oh, come on. Come on. Taking me back. I did. I grew up on a small sod farm in a little town called Belglade, Florida, which is in the Everglades of Florida, right there on Lake Okeechobee. And I was there until I graduated high school. My dad was a sod farmer. My mom was an elementary school teacher. She was my fourth grade teacher at one point. It's a super small town, so we only had one fourth grade class. There wasn't any getting around it. It was awful because the kids, all my peers, thought that mom gave me the answers at night, you know, and that's how I did so well on the test. And then mom was extra hard on me because I was her kid, you know, so it was kind of couldn't win for losing type situation. And then, you know, my dad, golly, hardest working man I'll ever know in my life. Like, when I was a kid, I remember him being up and gone before the sun would come up. I remember laying in bed and hearing his big diesel truck kind of leave our rock driveway. And then I also remember being in bed after dark and hearing that truck come back into the driveway. And that's just the way he worked. And it was just a credit to the work ethic that he led with, but that also he instilled in his children. He's my hero, you know, in a simple way of saying it, because not only did he provide that example growing up, but nowadays he's kind of like my best friend. You know, we talk every day or every couple days, and you know, we're in completely different professions. He was a farmer, I'm an attorney, but he was in business. You know, he started his own business, he ran his own business, and he knows people. And so it's funny that I can be at a mediation, big case, high dollar mediation we're at, and we're going back and forth, and I can call him in the middle of the day and let him know how negotiations are going, and he knows the exact tactics, right? You know, he's like, no, don't play into that. They're just trying to, don't do this, and he'll have guidance to offer because, you know, he was great at working with people, and he's also great at just kind of passing those lessons on. So anyways, super proud of where I come from. I got a little bit off topic there. But
no, that's right on topic, man. Because look, my same thing, you know, obviously different practices of law, right? But it's a people business.
Yes.
Like there's like personal injury is personal when you do it right. You're dealing with people. Criminal is very personal when you're dealing with people. You're affecting somebody's life and their families, and there's a ripple effect to the work you do. And my dad wasn't a farmer, but he was in construction. You know, it's a labor trade. He left early, he worked late, and he had to understand people, and he knew when someone was trying to get one over on him or people were feeding him bullshit. So it's funny because to me, I think that's invaluable, that perspective that they bring. They're not in the minutia of like, oh, this legal tactic or that legal tactic. They cut through all that. And they're like,
they don't got to be, right? They're not distracted by that
exactly.
stuff.
They see right through it, and they're like, no, they're pushing this button. People are people. Go here, son. And you're like, damn it, you're fucking right again, Dad. Shit.
How's he always know that?
You got me. You know. But that's what's great, and that's what humbles, you know, probably humbles you every day, is having that
entirely
hardworking background, and you chose a trade where you can use your hard work and dedication to help people. You know?
You know, I was listening to something maybe last week, and it was just such a great reminder that, you know, we always want to think about where we're at and how we got here and what wheels we put in motion and what work we did. But what you really need to think about is what sacrifices were made by the people who came before you. What pains did they take to instill certain values in you? What time did they spend praying for you and just, you know, hoping the best for you and wanting to see you get on the right track? And it's always good to remember that we just wouldn't be where we're at without that. And I feel especially blessed just, you know, having the family structure that I had, you know, a mom and a dad that really took pains, that really loved their kids. You know, we grew up with humble means, but no expense was spared when it came to anything involving education or trying to give me or my sister an advantage and trying to help us get ahead and move our lives down the road. And so anyways, it's a good lesson to me now that I have a daughter. My wife and I had a daughter about 9 months ago, Magnolia Jolene. We call her Maggie Jo. But keeping those memories kind of on the front burner reminds me of, now the duty that I have, right?
Yeah.
The duty that I have to my child to keep that going forward. All the sacrifices that have been made, I want to make those same sacrifices. I want to do the same thing for my kid. And it's just that, I don't know, it's the love that parents have, and it's been new experiences for me. And anyways, I forget where we were, man.
We're right where we need to be, baby.
Cool.
Yeah, those are big responsibilities, being a husband, you know, and then having your family grow and welcome Maggie Jo to the world. We're month 9 now.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with how you misled me before the interview. No. But she's
Maggie Jo's the only baby.
Okay.
No others on the way right now.
I was worried.
No.
Seeing that progression, and you feel you take on a new role every time. I remember, we've known each other years and years. We're just counting back like 15 years now, which is a long time.
It's a long time, man.
Yeah.
15 years.
It goes back, but seeing you've been the same person since I've met you. You've been the same humble guy, the Southern Mountain, fun-loving Josh, from law school all the way till now as a grown man, husband, father. And I remember you were all worked up when you came back, and things were progressing with Hannah, right? And
yes,
before
sir.
we even had
yes,
the
sir.
engagement and then the beautiful wedding, and we saw that. It's just so cool to see that journey, and know that you're living for more than yourself, and like the responsibility, like even when you don't want to do something, I'm sure there's at least 2 fires there, for each one of your girls. It's like, no, you suck it up, go do it, right?
Oh yeah. So those 2 events, Jason, that you just mentioned, both meeting Hannah and her ultimately taking that leap and coming to live with me in San Diego, and then us ultimately getting married, and then having my daughter, those have been the 2 most focusing events in my life. And what I mean by focusing is, I don't know about you, but I'll describe my experience. When it was just me kind of banging around and, kind of cutting my teeth in the legal profession, working here, working there, I was super motivated and inspired to learn my craft and to grow, but ultimately always felt like it doesn't matter. I'll always be able to get by, if it's not that job or another job. I mean, I'm going to survive. I can live on a buddy's couch. I can go here. I can go there. Yeah. But then when Hannah finally gave in to 3 years of me trying to wear her down and convince her to come out here and live with me and ultimately be my wife, I felt like the gravity of the responsibility, the gravity of that decision. And it's like, I'm going to always do absolutely everything that I can to make sure she never feels like she never feels like she made a bad decision. She made the wrong choice. I just felt that responsibility. It's like that primal instinct of like provider all of a sudden comes to the surface, right? And so that was probably the first, like, most focused. That's when I started my law practice. Yeah. It was just a few months after Hannah moved in that, well, let's see. So I remember at that time I was working for 2 of the best trial attorneys in San Diego, Tim Scott and Mark Fleming. And, it was awesome experience working for them. I learned a whole lot and ultimately was wanting to grow and get more responsibility. And I had gone home, and this couldn't be more than a month or 2 after Hannah had moved in. And I'd go home and I'd speak with her and, kind of like back and forth, feeling like maybe I need to go to a public defender's office, or otherwise I got to try to bring in my own cases. Like, that's the only way I'm going to grow and get more experience. And Hannah just real cavalierly says, well, why don't you start your own practice? To which my response was, oh my gosh, you've got no idea what kind of undertaking that is. Like, it's not possible. And all those fears were coming up inside me, right? Like, not enough experience, don't know enough, haven't been around enough. There's thousands of other people that are more qualified than me. And about a week later, I came home And Hannah had built a Squarespace website for me, got me some business cards. And she handed it to me when I walked in the door that evening. And I was just, well, I guess we're in business.
Hey, we made it.
Yeah. Right. We made it. And so, that was always the reaction from my friends after that. So, first of all, it took a little courage for me to even, have the confidence to tell someone. I started my own law practice. Yeah. Everyone was super pumped for me, super excited. Oh my gosh, that must be so exciting. I can't imagine what it's like. Must be so awesome. Little did they know. It was just me sitting in a dark office, phone's not ringing, nothing's really changed, still just kind of doing the same work. But along, you grow more confidence as you kind of get into the role and you start getting out there and walking every day. And you realize that you got to get out. You've got to meet people. You've got to let folks know what you're doing. You've got to try to bring clients in and build the business. And in there, I felt like one of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned in life was that still, like, when people would ask me, how's it going? How are things moving? I would always be like super candid and authentic. Like, I live my life. I try to be the most authentic version of myself. And at that time, there was so much doubt inside me as to the direction I was headed in. So people are asking how it's going, and those doubts were just pouring out. Well, it's kind of all right. It's hard finding business. Don't know if it's going to work out, type of thing. Not what people want to hear when they're asking how your law practice is going. And then I was talking with a mentor at one point, and he just kind of took me aside and said, hey, listen, if other people are going to believe it, if they're going to believe the vision, you've got to believe it first, and you've got to start walking that out. And I really took that to heart. And I remember the next time someone asked me, how's it going? Better than I ever imagined. I never believed it could have been this good. Like, we're so blessed. I work with the best clients. I love what I do every day. And Jason, it wasn't a month or 2 months after that, man, we started signing cases and clients that some attorneys will never see in their career. We just really got blessed with great clients, great families to work for. And then we took off from there. Like, it's been a super steep upward trajectory from there. And the blessings have just continued to roll in. And like I said, I never would have gotten started down this path had it not been for first, the confidence of my own wife believing in me and kind of setting me down this path. And that goes for a lot of things in my life. I say it all the time, but it always bears repeating, and I mean it every time I say it. She's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I would not be where I'm at today without her. So anyways.
No, look, you jumped right where I was going, because it's normal to have those fears, right? I opened my own practice. The world was shit when we came out of law school, the worst recession, the legal market, financial market, you name it. People, they've thought I was crazy from Jump Street, so it's not like they thought now I'm crazy. I bring that to the table and I wear it. But, limiting beliefs are one thing, and you have to overcome it, because what Hannah saw and what everyone else sees is your character, and we see your potential. We see, like, to have your number one there. And she wasn't trying to be disrespectful in any way, and I know you didn't take it that way, but she's talking to you and planting the seed, and if she supports you, that's what matters. And she's like, my baby needs a little push. Here's your push. I'm artistic. Here's a beautiful website. Here's your business card. Now you're in the game, baby. Now it's you. I can't do the law, but I can make you look real good and let other people see what I see, and then it goes. And then your mentor, I don't know which one it was who said that, but I had a very similar conversation with a person who was a mentor to me, who said, Jason, the best cases you'll get will be referrals from other lawyers. And when a lawyer has people with clients and more than needs than they can fulfill, I'm not going to send. Their direct words were, look, if I ask you how's business, how's practice, and if it's not good or great, you're not even in my thought process of someone to refer it to, right?
1,000%.
Your business is great, can always be better, of course. But if your business just, okay, well, shit, I'm not sending you a case, because I don't want to send it to a, okay lawyer. Yeah. And I was like, that makes sense. So next time I saw him, he's like, how's business? I'm like, business is great. Great. Put together, and that was honest. But when you're running the practice, I get tied down in a lot of the bullshit and a lot of things that are stressing me out, or the problems of the day, and I don't take a step back and look at all the blessings. So that forced me to do that, and I wasn't lying to him. I can show you, like, look at this case, look at the outcome we got, look how happy that family is, right? And so it just reminded me that people want to be reassured of who you are and what you can deliver. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like, it gives us good perspective to remember that, right?
Yeah.
Because that's like most things in life, and our careers and our practices aren't outside of that. But it's whatever we're focusing on is what's growing. It's whatever we're focusing on is what we're bringing into us, right? So if we're focusing on the problems, the issues, the doubts, like all of that stuff, that's growing, and that's what we're projecting. But when we're focused on the mission, the blessings, the things that are going right, and you take that macro look and you're like, hey, we're doing pretty great work here. You know, that also instills in you that confidence to start carrying that good work further, you know. And anyways, it's always like hearing what you just said is always just a gentle reminder to myself of like, hey, like, step back, observe a little bit. Yeah. And always taking that observation, the problems become a lot smaller, the blessings become a lot bigger, and you carry so much more peace and that great energy moving forward. Yeah.
Huge. You know, the momentum's growing on business, and that with that momentum and that energy, your little problems of the day, you crush them.
Yes. Right? Yeah.
And
1,000%.
It's crazy. And sometimes you have to have a little reset, a little mental refocusing, and take a step back, get some gratitude in, think about your blessings, you know, even if it's like 30 seconds, you just pause before your next call. Yeah. That's what I do. Because I know when I jump on the next call, I'm going to get annoyed because lately it's waiting on a jail or waiting on a legal counselor to get my client there 30 minutes late for the conversation I've been waiting to have, you know. And if I focus on that aspect of it, other than, you know, the good work I get to do when the client gets on the phone, I don't want it to eat up into that precious time that's so hard to come by now. You know, with the coronavirus, we can't go meet people. I can't build the relationships I usually would because I can't see them, you know. And if I put myself in their shoes, geez, I'm facing how much time, and I can only hear my lawyer's voice, right? Like,
how scary that must be, man.
Yeah, it's it's one of a kind. I don't think we'll ever see anything like this again. But
hopefully,
you know, there's a big pool of problems that are being developed and festered by coronavirus in the criminal justice system for sure, where you have presumed innocent people sitting in jail waiting for their day in court, and we don't know when that's going to happen.
Don't know when it's going to happen. Yeah. Like, that kind of uncertainty, that kind of doubt, and that kind of a dire situation is just a recipe for disaster, man.
Yeah.
And just, I can only imagine the games that plays with someone's head. So it makes your job even more intense, right? Because part of your job is helping to manage those games that are going on inside your client's head and kind of helping keeping them even, giving them some sort of hope, some sort of light at the end of the tunnel, or otherwise just some sort of general information and assurance that they can take and just find some measure of peace with. And it's hard to do that right now. I mean, limited access to them, and then so much uncertainty going on that you got your hands full, brother.
Oh yeah, both hands.
Yeah.
The let's go back a little bit. So you come up from the Everglades, then you go over and you're in Tallahassee, right?
That's right. I went to Florida State University. Go Noles.
I knew that was coming. Bobby Bowden. And so when did you know along that journey that you wanted to go into law?
Man, it was a little bit of a curvy path for me. So I remember when I was going to Florida State, you know, I wasn't doing anything special there. I was there. I met some of the best friends I'll ever have in my life. But had no idea who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. And at that time in my life, law school was a way to prolong making that decision. So I was always pretty good at school. I could jump in, I could get by. And unfortunately, at that time in my life, I wasn't taking the time or the energy to sit down and give myself an evaluation. Like, what are my values? What am I interested in? What are my strengths? What do I have to offer people? And like choosing a path for myself. I wasn't looking at it. I probably had too much fear at that time in my life to sit down and look at that. But instead, I chose law school because, you know, it checks the box of getting parents off your back, you know, doing something productive and admirable, you know, going into a good profession. And then also I didn't really have to worry about going out and hitting the marketplace, which at that time we felt like wasn't good. Little did we know it was about to get worse.
Yep.
But anyways, I was able to put off making some decisions and gave me the opportunity to move out to San Diego. And so I just checked all those boxes and packed up the car and moved out here. And then started moving forward from there. So, we come out, and you and I met together when we started law school. And, when I was in law school, I still didn't really have a clear path of where I was headed or what I was going to do. And I think it probably got even worse at that point. I think while we were in law school, I was questioning whether I even wanted to be a lawyer. I mean, the truth was that I really didn't like most lawyers that I knew, which I know we both can relate to, right? And again, was just kind of questioning the direction that I was headed in life. And so while I was in law school, I ended up getting in a couple skiing accidents. I blew out my knee twice, ended up getting a couple surgeries, started taking painkillers. And by the time we were graduating and studying for the bar, I was just in a place I never thought I'd find myself. I'd become addicted to painkillers and was dealing with all the problems that brought on, both situational and relational, and was just in a bad spot, man. And so we graduated law school in 2009 as the economy has taken a downturn. And what I ultimately did was went home to see my folks for Christmas that year, thinking that I would just be there for a couple of days, dry out a little bit, come back, get things started. And it was when I got home that I truly realized, how bad of a spot that I was in. And so while I was there, my folks offered me some help, and I accepted it very readily because I knew that I didn't know what direction I was headed in or who I wanted to be, but I knew it wasn't the person that I was at that moment.
Yeah.
And so my dad ended up driving me on Christmas night to a hospital to detox in. And I was there for a few days. And when I left there, I ended up moving to a place called Dunklin Memorial Camp, which is a men's ranch where a bunch of guys who have similar struggles go. This old preacher named Brother Mickey, my gosh, he passed away recently, but one of the greatest men you could ever meet in your life. It's the most loving old cowboy preachers. He could melt you just by walking up to you. He'd tell you he loves you. He'd give you a big hug, and he could just sink you into a puddle right there on the floor, man. So anyways, he started this camp. He basically homesteaded the place and developed this huge acreage out in the Everglades where he, at that time, 50 years ago, he would kind of go around to the local jails, find the guys who'd been, arrested for being too drunk or whatnot, and he'd just grab them, say, hey, I'm going to take them with me. They're going to come out and work on the ranch, and I'll help them out from there. And back in those days, they would just release them to him. All right, they're all yours, Brother Mickey.
Go for it.
Yeah, exactly. and like a little bit at a time, this camp started and became a working camp. And so I was there for 9 months, and it was the best education I ever got in my life. I think before moving out there, I had zero emotional intelligence, I'd say, to where I had two emotions. I was either happy or angry, or sad, not a whole lot of nuance in there. No idea what the word process meant as far as processing a feeling, processing an emotion. And I got that education while I was out there. And I also just was surrounded by a bunch of guys going through similar struggles, but we were all there for each other. We all grew during that time together. And so really opened me up. I was in a dark place in my life, and it really opened me up to, this feeling of being able to have friends and receive love from other people, and, understand that we're all in this together and we have common struggles, and that by coming together in community and talking about things that we're able to process through those struggles, and like we were just talking about, they become a whole lot smaller, right?
Yeah.
And anyways, I was there for 9 months, and then I left there, and my confidence at that time in my life was absolutely shook, Jason. Like I was content going back to farming with my family, and just that's how I was going to live my days. I was going to live out my life just like that. And ultimately, I had my family come around me and tell me, no, you were meant for something different. And if not, you're at least going to go and try and find out one way or the other. And so you're fired.
Yeah. From the family business.
From the family business. Out. And that started the journey that I'm still on today, man. So after that, I moved up to Gainesville and then ultimately Jacksonville Beach, Florida, where I studied for the Florida bar, passed it, started to gain a little bit of momentum, a little bit of confidence. And I was living in Jacksonville Beach, waiting for my scores to come back. and then also my moral character application in Florida to come back. And while I was waiting tables in Jacksonville Beach, waiting for the scores to come back, I actually met my wife, Hannah. So she ended up coming into the restaurant with a bunch of her girlfriends, and I was their waiter that evening. And
surprise,
changed my life forever, man. She had a boyfriend at the time, wouldn't give me the time of day, but through some clever stalking,
investigation.
We'll call it investigation. Through some clever investigation, I met a friend of hers who had a Facebook page and, backdoored to Hannah's Facebook page, et cetera, et cetera. Finally got a phone number somehow. And then poor girl, I just wouldn't leave her alone. So anyways, so I met Hannah at that time. And also during that time, the Florida bar got back to me. So when I submitted my moral character application, I was super searingly honest and just upfront about all the struggles I'd gone through. I never got in any legal trouble, thankfully. But at that time in my life, like I said, I was just trying to be as authentic as possible. I never wanted anything following me around. And at the same time, didn't want to act like I was somebody that I was not. And so maybe as part of therapy or therapeutic for me, I just disclosed everything on that application. Probably shouldn't have because it created a whole world of issues that actually led me to where I'm at today. And I'm so grateful they did. So Florida Bar got back to me and said, "Hey, Josh, thanks for applying. We'll give you a bar license, but you're going to be on this probation for 5 years." And one of the terms of that probation was that you could work, you could be a working attorney, have a practice, all of that good stuff, but you had to observe all these requirements. One of the requirements being that I had to have stayed domiciled in Florida for that entire 5-year period. And as we all know about living in San Diego, once you've lived here, it's hard to live anywhere else, right? And
Absolutely.
So I had always had a vision and a plan to return to San Diego because this is just where I saw myself living my life. And that 5 years just wasn't a part of that plan. And so I had a decision to make: either sit down and do what I'm being told, or make some proactive decisions and head in a different direction. And, for better or worse, like through the last year or two prior to that, I had really learned myself, and I just knew how I responded when someone was telling me where I could and couldn't go, and it just wasn't healthy. I think ultimately I could have done it for a little while, but I'd have grown resentful, and it probably would have just kind of melted down after that. And so I just thankfully rescinded my application from the state bar, and I thanked them for all the time they put into it. And then within a month, I had packed up and moved back out to San Diego. I'd been working like 80 hours a week, just saving all the money I could to make it back to San Diego for the gas and a little bit of money to live on. Thankfully, like one of my best friends, Matt Benninger, I had called him during this time in my life, and he was like, "Hey man, listen, I got your back. No problem at all. Come out." He's like, "I'll give you a place to live, and you just focus on studying for the bar and getting back on your feet, man. Don't worry about a thing." And man, I'll always have just this sincere gratitude and love for Matt, number one as a friend and a person, but aside from that, for the goodness, for the good turn he did for me there. That couple months turned into a couple years, and it gave me the jumping off point that I just desperately needed in order to make this run, so to speak. And so I did. I got back to California in February of 2012. I got back Christmas Eve. I'll never forget it. Christmas Eve of 2011. Sat for the bar February 2012. Passed it, thankfully, and I don't know, a month after I had taken the bar, Matt is the one who introduced me to Tim Scott and Mark Fleming, who took a chance on me, gave me a job, and put me to work, even knowing like my history and the problems I was likely to encounter with the bar here in California. And that got me up and running, man. And a few months later, I got the news that I'd passed the bar. And then after that, California came back and said something similar because I had done the same thing on that application. I got, the guys made a whole lot of fun of me for being so honest about it, but it's all right, man. It was just something I needed to do at that time. Yeah. And the state of California came in and said, "Hey, we see you, we love you, we believe in you, but we're also going to put you on probation for a year just so we can assess what's going on here," which at the time was not the news I wanted to get, man. I felt like it was just taking me so long to get out of the starting gate after law school. But ultimately, again, it was another great year of growth. Didn't affect like my trajectory career-wise, because both Tim and Mark didn't care about any of that stuff. They got me in basically second chairing big federal criminal trials, jury trials. The only thing was I couldn't take witnesses, but I was getting all the experience of doing all the prep, all the motions work. I was the trial director, so I was very familiar with exhibits and putting on a trial, and I got to learn from these guys, just sitting back and watching. And again, just an education that was priceless for me at that time. And then January of 2014, it was actually December of 2013, I got the email saying that I had the green light. And by January of 2014, I was sworn in, and Tim had me in taking witnesses in trial a month later. And and here we are.
Isn't that cool though?
Yeah. It was a wild ride, man, and I really hadn't walked down that road in a good while, so it's really good memory sitting here and talking with you about it today. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing, man. It's perseverance is hard work. You know what I mean? And like, you faced a lot of adversity, that wasn't necessarily of your own making at the time. You went skiing. You have an accident.
Sure.
And who knows how that would have snowballed? Pardon the pun, right?
Sure.
But
sure.
The personal development that came out of that and the better understanding of self make you the well-rounded man and lawyer you are today that allows you to succeed, right? And gives you a perspective that we talk with lawyers every day, and we're, not saying we're great, but we see what we deal with, and we see the way makes me mad is when I see people that are really just truly incompetent and just are fucking up cases because it waters down the profession, but more importantly, you're hurting somebody's life.
1,000%.
Criminal,
yes.
and someone's going to jail for longer than they should be, or going to jail at all. Or in the injury world, if you're just short selling someone's case because you don't want to face that challenge and you're just going to sell them down the river because you think the risk isn't worth the potential cost, whatever it is, that's what really infuriates me. And I know those types of things bug you too because of the passion I see you pour into your practice. Can you walk us through sort of how you found your lane? Because you're working with two of the best criminal lawyers in San Diego, with Mark doing his capital cases, renowned in the federal circuits, coast to coast. Tim being a litigation powerhouse, also renowned pretty much any courthouse he goes in. People know him. Not every day you get to write a book with the district judge. Yeah. I mean, like, you're dealing with some heavy hitters.
Pedigrees don't come any better than that right there.
No, I mean, and you got the educational background to prove it, and then you just have salty people who work hard and are good to people who are good to them, And so you get that type of, training, and, you cut your teeth with them. How do you transition and find your groove, and where'd you find your passion in the injury work and the wrongful death employment side?
Yeah, so you're right, Jason. I started off more in your practice area doing federal criminal defense work, and I felt like I really had a passion for doing that work, especially at that time in my life, because I felt like I could really empathize with our clients, right? In the sense that I was very well aware of what path I was headed down. And the only reason that I got redirected was because I had a support system, right? I had parents or friends and family that came around me and said, "Hey, Josh, you're making some bad choices here. And you got another choice now. You can turn it around or you can go a little bit deeper." I think I'll never forget the line that my dad said to me. He's like, "Hey, you're at a low place in your life right now, and you can make a decision to get up off the floor, or you can kick your boot through the floor and go a little bit deeper if you want to." And like, it's always stuck with me. And thankfully he helped pull me up off the floor, right? The difference between, our clients and myself at that time was that, most of our clients just don't have that support system around them, right? So they make a couple more bad choices and then a couple more bad choices, and that snowball just continues to gain momentum. And then all of a sudden they find themselves in a place they never thought they'd be, right? Talking to you over a phone, trying to figure out when their court hearing is going to be. So at that time in my life, I was just like, had this deep sense of gratitude and like was loving working with our clients, like just fighting for justice, fighting for good, fighting to give people another chance, right? Fighting to get them headed in a better direction. And I remember when I stepped out and hung my shingle, Tim came to me and said, "Hey man, you're going to be a toaster attorney." And like in my mind, I'm like, are toasters that dangerous? Like, what kind of attorney? And he's like, no, man, you're going to take anything that pops up, because that's what you do when you're starting a law practice. You do whatever it takes. He's like, I don't care if it's a criminal case. I don't care if it's a bankruptcy case. I don't care if it's a business formation. You do it. You turn on the lights. And if you need answers, I'm here. You got other people around you. I can introduce you to some folks, but you find answers and you just do it, because that's what it takes to run a business. And that really spoke to me. And so along those lines, I had a gentleman that I met in the elevator of our building at the time. I think he was a little bit lost, and I was just looking. I'm like, hey, can I help you find someone? He's like, I'm looking for an attorney. I was like, oh, do you have an appointment? He's like, no, I'm just looking for one. I'm like, oh, well, I'm an attorney.
You found him.
Yeah. What do you need? He's like, I want to sue 7-Eleven. I was like, well, come on, come right down to my office.
They give me brain freeze anyways. Fuck those guys.
Yeah. So anyways, man, it was a minor personal injury case is what it was. And I had no idea what I was doing. But at the time, the guy who ultimately is my partner now, Hamilton Arrington, was in the office right next door to mine. And golly, talk about a pedigree. Hamilton was at the U.S. Attorney's Office. He was a former, I believe, a division chief over there, and then left there, and he worked over at Gomez Trial Attorneys doing a lot of heavy PI litigation. And then he had just stepped out, and he was starting his own practice and was in the office right next door to me. And he's like, hey, man, this is low level. This is bottom shelf case right here. He's like, it's not tough. He's like, I can walk you through it. You know, I've got all the forms, all the samples that you'll need. He's like, take the case on. It'll be a good experience. And it was the best decision I ever made. I had never done injury law before, never worked on an injury case before, but I absolutely fell in love with it, man. I fell in love with the practice. I fell in love with our clients. I felt like I was able to empathize even more with our injury clients, because I also know what it's like to suffer an injury, like a life-changing injury, right? You know, and kind of had a tough time with recovery and all the kind of ups and downs that you have during recovery. And specifically, I drew on, you know, a lot of experience from a car accident that I was involved in with my parents on it was a Christmas Eve night. Well, that's a little bit of a theme here. It was a Christmas Eve night. I was a kid. I still remember being in the back of the station wagon. We got T-boned by a drunk driver. And, you know, I think I told you earlier, we came from humble means. And so, you know, that was the only means of transportation for the family, right? The station wagon. And then the medical bill started coming in. And then I remember being young, but I also remember knowing like the stress that it was causing in our house.
You could feel it.
Yeah, it's palpable, right? It's quantifiable. Trying to figure out like, how are we going to pay these bills? What are we going to do about the car? Like, how are we going to get the car back on the road? How are we going to get back and forth to work? How do we get the kids to school? And like, that's on top of just the physical recovery from the physical injuries that both my parents and myself are suffering, you know. And my parents were so selfless at the time. It wasn't about them. It was about making sure that I was okay, and then about, you know, making sure that the house was still supported. And so, you know, yeah, it's very, very, that experience I can still feel inside me, right? And so then I begin working with our injury clients, and it's just taking me right back to that place. And I hear like the fears that they're having, the insecurities that they're having. And, you know, it was at the time in my life where I was just starting out. So I had a handful of clients, and I just decided that like, this is the type of practice that I want to have. I want to have a practice where I only have so many clients, right? Because people that are going through this time in their lives, they need somebody beside them. You know, they just need someone they can pick up the phone and talk to. And half the time they were calling, they didn't really have a legal question or anything along those lines. Sometimes they just needed to vent. They needed to tell somebody how hard it was. And yeah, and then also what we've learned now, the most frustrating part of this process is just not having answers to your questions, because it's so confusing, right? You're in an accident. Oh, yeah. Whose insurance is covering this? Can I speak with the insurance company? Am I allowed to give a statement? You know, what am I doing here? What's wrong? What's right? And just being able to offer yourself as a guide to people that are trying just to navigate this road to recovery it's an honor almost, right? Because you realize just how important this is for people, how important it is for their lives, and kind of the direction and the trajectory of trying to get themselves back to where they were, as close to there as they're going to get to. And I don't know, man, I'm sure you felt this at some point, but it was like in those moments that I knew like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. this is it right here.
Yeah.
Like all the searching, like, do I want to be a lawyer? What do I want to do with my life? I like criminal law, I like trial work. I can totally empathize with this work for sure. But then when I moved over to the injury practice, like this right here, this is what I know I'm supposed to be doing. And like I said, thankfully, we got blessed with just some great clients and great cases early on. And, and it was families that just really believed in me at a time when I'm not sure I believed in myself that much. And one family in particular, I'm recalling, we represented the parents of a young man who died in a tragic motorcycle accident. And this young man's mother is still like a second mother to myself, to Hamilton. But she could sense it. She could sense like the doubts that I had in myself. And she would come up to me and she said, I believe in you 100%. And I want you to believe in yourself. And I don't want anyone else representing my family on this case. You're the one who's going to get justice for Georgie. And she, like, I'm getting chill bumps right now, but she would say that and empower me with that when I needed to hear that. Like, I was the one who's supposed to be giving her the talk, letting her know that, like, hey, it's all going to be okay here. And it's almost like the hand of God just coming alongside you, and just saying, hey, we believe in you and you can do this, and that family's still very close to me in my heart. And anyways, like I said, we were blessed to get to fight for those families early on, and that's what cemented in my mind, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm going to do 100%. And I think early on I was still moonlighting. Like, I had a few injury cases and I was still doing some criminal work. I think I was doing some work for you at the time as well.
We were fortunate enough to work together. It was fun.
Yeah, it was good. And then, like, I just had that moment in my life where, like, this is what I believe I'm supposed to be doing. And if I truly believe it, then this is what I should be doing every day. 100%. And so then every moment that I divert to doing something else that I know is not my purpose, that I know is some side path, then I'm taking away from my true life's purpose. And it takes commitment to, like, head in that one direction, right? Because all these side paths are insurance policies, right? All this stuff over here on the side and the peripheral, this is what we're keeping going just in case the life's purpose doesn't work out, right? But if we truly believe it, if we truly believe that's our purpose, then everything else gets sacrificed in service of us pursuing that purpose. And so that was the decision tree that I came to at one point, and that was in 2016. And I made up my mind. Like, we're going forward, and I'm going to be an injury attorney, and I'm going to fight for families who've suffered injury or lost loved ones. And we haven't looked back since, man. So here we are today.
Yeah, man. Well, look, sky's the limit, and that's what you have to do. Like, it's my belief you have to experience the law. Like, not just law school. You have to experience the law to find your groove. You have the toaster start. Most people do. When you start your own practice, you have to do that. You have to keep the bills paid. You have to keep the lights on. And you have to understand where you fit in this game, right? Because the practice of law is very widespread. There's a bunch of different avenues you can go down. But there all comes a time where you have to focus, and you're taking, when you feel in alignment, and this is me, and easily when that's not me. And then there's the tougher ones, I think, are the gray areas where, like, this could be me. Because it's got there's a lot of overlap between the similarities between representing a human being in a criminal action and injury action and a family who's lost a loved one. There's so much overlap in, like, client control. You're taking on a machine, the evil insurance company. And I think everyone agrees they're evil, because even friends of mine who used to work at them and then came over to the injury side, or even people who are still at these big injury firms, they appreciate our clients' struggles, but they have a little risk management system above them that
they got their marching orders,
right?
Don't
And
they? Yeah.
how much money do I have to spend on this case at this point until I hit this level? So it's a system that we have to take on, just like the federal government is a system we have to take on with seems like unlimited resources, and they don't have a client per se. But you have to focus it. And I remember I had to do that. And I used some of my trial skills to assist with injury matters. And I used a lot of my skills with business matters and understanding negotiation from the criminal space. But I realized, like, look, representing individuals and businesses in both a criminal investigation or a parallel proceeding, some sort of collateral proceeding that we're dealing with as the fallout of a criminal allegation or an investigation, like, that's where I'm best serving my clients. And you have to do the same thing. And you've done it, and I think the results speak for themselves. The success speaks for itself. So you have Braddock Law Group. You still have Braddock Law Group up and running.
We do.
And you've recently, because you did a lot of work with Hamilton Aronson, you've now formalized a new partnership, right? Between the two of you guys coming together. And
brand new.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. So Braddock Law has been, still is my firm since 2016. That was the firm that Hannah made our first webpage for and got everything started, and we rolled with that. And back to your point that you were talking about, of kind of that moment of like putting up a webpage and getting some business cards and taking some nice photos. You're right. Like, that kind of stuff, like, gives you confidence, makes you feel legitimate, right? Makes you feel like, hey, maybe I do belong here, type thing. Because Hannah and I were, Hannah's, of course, a lifestyle photographer.
A damn good one, too.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Makes me look good.
She's so, makes us both look good, man. So, which is a full-time job for us. But she's so good at what she does. And I think someone was asking me the other day, I can't remember how it came up, but I was talking about exactly that same phenomenon. Those photos gave me the confidence I needed at a time where I just didn't have a whole lot, So those little things have just kind of helped building and growing. And, take that, and we gained so much momentum over, that next year, 2 years. And Braddock Law really grew into a pretty successful going concern, man. We had a good handful of people working for us, a couple attorneys, and some great support staff. Just the best support staff. I'll say it in San Diego, maybe in the country. But like, the folks that work with us, like, Braddock Law would not be here without the team that works at Braddock Law. Our paralegals, our attorneys, like, every day I'm in awe of the work they put forward and the work that they do. And every day I learn something from them. And it's something that I should have been taught. We've got one of the best paralegals, Alicia Coville, and daily she teaches me something. And anyways, I went down a little bit of rabbit hole, but I just have so much pride and so much love for them. And yeah, you're right. We were working on all of our cases with Hamilton. Well, excuse me, not all of our cases, but a lot of our bigger cases, Hamilton and I would co-counsel together. He'd bring over some of his, I'd bring over some of mine, and it was just funner working the cases together. And so that was pushing forward, and we were doing great with that. And then, I guess it was about a year ago, we wrapped up one of the bigger cases we were working, which was a big brain injury case. And, we kind of got together, just debriefing afterwards, and we're evaluating the synergies between our offices and just how well that worked out. Hamilton had this lights-out associate working for him, a guy named Lynn, who is just, again, a great trial attorney. And then, with our litigation paralegals, Alicia and Yvette, and then the team that surrounded them, it was a well-oiled machine. And so we just kind of had the discussion of like, hey, man, like, you've got this, I've got that. Why don't we just throw in together and just make this thing official? And you and I have talked about this before, but I'm a big energy guy. Like, the energy's got to be there. It's got to be a good, positive, like, good, forceful energy, right? And that was always there with Hamilton. Like, he's just, at his core, like, he's just sincerely one of the best guys I've ever met, And also, like, he has taught me a lot about, there's always a path to doing the right thing. And there's always a path to doing the right thing by everybody. Sometimes you just have to find your way there. And anyways, I'm going a little bit off topic here, but the relationship was sound between him and I. And, you know that being in a partnership with someone's like being in a professional marriage. So
exactly.
You got to be able to have the good, the bad, the ugly, it's got to be the closest thing to a family member that you can get. You got to trust that person. You've got to be able to speak with that person. You got to be able to be candid and share fears and insecurities and all that stuff with that person. And anyways, that relationship was there between him and I, and then our firms fit so nicely. And then on the client front, like, him and I had been going and meeting and working with and signing up clients basically since Jump Street, since I started in this practice. And so, we were already a well-oiled machine in that regard. And so, outside of that, it was just the logistics of bringing two medium-sized firms together, which is a high-wire act. And so over the last year or so, we've worked on bridging that gap. And it was just last week that we finally dialed everything in, signed all the paperwork, and now we're off and running. We haven't even gotten the branding and website up yet. We're hoping to have that launched by the end of the month, and then we'll start putting something formal out there. But as of right now, we still have our individual footprints, and hopefully within the next month or 2 months will be when we launch the new brand. We're super excited about it. Hannah's taking us out on Monday. She's doing that lifestyle shoot. She's going to give us that extra little confidence we're going to need to launch this new venture. But yeah, man, I feel like I'm at a very blessed place, so to speak, in that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I know that I'm working in my purpose every day, and I'm doing it with the people that I want to be doing it with. Our whole firm is a family now. We worked really hard to develop that culture, right? We got about 8 people or so in our firm, and I think we've all had bad work experiences before, right? And so one thing that we really worked hard to do was make this place like a place that people could call home, could call a family, right? That we try to take out like the negative energy and the backbiting and stuff along those lines that goes around. And instead, we try to develop this atmosphere where, we feel love and family for each other, because that's what we project for our clients, and our clients need that sort of support, I feel like, when they're going through such a traumatic time. And it's in line with the firm that way back when, and the type of attorney that I felt like I wanted to be, which was a firm that limits the number of cases that we take on so that we can give that personal attention to our clients. And all of our clients have my cell phone number, or Hamilton's cell phone number, or their attorney's cell phone number. They don't call the office and get pawned off on a paralegal or someone along those lines. They always know that they can reach me, and they can reach me night or day. And I'll tell them, I'll give them a little caveat. If I don't get back to you that evening, I'll get back to you as soon as I get the message tomorrow. And it's that type of relationship approach to the practice of law, and specifically to being a trial attorney for personal injury victims, that I felt like has carried us to where we're at, because it's the human story, and this has all been well taught and documented in seminars and stuff out there, but you can know the facts of someone's case and just not be able to communicate that case. You have to be able to almost put yourself in their shoes. You have to be able to understand where they're coming from. You have to understand why, this slight bit of scarring on, a certain, like whether it's the face or a chin or something like that, was so traumatic. When outside it doesn't appear that traumatic to someone looking on from the outside, you got to understand like where they're coming from and all the things that go into making them who they are, and the fears and insecurities that they possess, and why something that someone else might view as not that big of an injury is a huge and life-changing thing for this person, and to do that, you have to have a relationship with your clients. You have to get past like the facts, and you have to be able to speak with them and understand like what they're going through in their day-to-day, and have them feel comfortable enough to share that stuff with you and open up about it, because it's a huge part of their case. And so, yeah, I'm really proud of the firm that we've put together. It's been a lot of work over the last year. There's been some great attorneys that have come over to work with us. Laura Sasaki, one of the best attorneys, one of the best litigators in San Diego, in California, in the country. She is a stone cold assassin. She is surgical. She knows the law. She knows her craft, and she knows how to put a case together. I talked about Lynn already, another outstanding trial attorney. He was a former partner at his old firm on the East Coast, and with somewhere between 50 and 100 trials under his belt. And every day he's just moving the ball down the road and doing great work for his clients. And then Daniel Turek is working with us now as well. And Daniel's dad, Ken, is a staple of the San Diego legal community, one of the best trial attorneys San Diego's ever put out. And Ken is still knocking down huge verdicts. And Daniel, apple never falls far from the tree, right? But Daniel's also done great work making his own name. He gets up and goes to work hard every day, and he's building that reputation for himself. And just seeing some of the results that he's been pulling down recently, and some of the, even more importantly, the feedback that he gets from his clients, because Daniel just embodies that of coming alongside someone, holding their hand, walking with them for a little while, always very responsive, always just very nurturing for his clients. But he's a master of his craft. He's an excellent writer. You know, he's getting out front of some big cases and just doing great work. And, you know, I already talked about Alicia a little bit. But, hey, I'll sit here gushing on our folks as long as you'll let me, man. I'm going down a little bit of a rabbit hole here.
No, but it's good because people need to understand, like we were talking about it earlier, you can put anything on a website, you know, and no website's going to say, hey, come hire me. I'm all right. You know, I might get you some top dollar for your case. I may not. Depends how I'm feeling that day. You know, we really don't care about you. What's the bottom line for me? You know, no one puts that out there. But if you sit across the table from somebody, you can read the tea leaves as a client. And so it's for people to understand that you truly care about your work. You understand the importance of telling their story, right? It's not yours at all. And you believe this. You have the privilege of helping them or their family through a very tough time. And that's the honor that you take to work every day, which is why you go fight for them. It's not this ego show. It's about me, Josh Braddock, come watch me. And that's what we get a lot of times. And one of the things I told you before we went live here is I want to have you on as a friend to highlight the good work you're doing. But more importantly, you stand out to me because, let's be honest, all the advertisements, everything we see about injury this, injury that, injury attorney this, is a dollar figure. And we've yes, that's part of success, but we've never talked about an injury case and you've brought up money ever. Years. It's insane to me. And the more you think about it, it'll become more insane to you. I know it because it's just you. I'm just being Josh. Like, you're a humble, hardworking guy and you're privileged. You're just blessed to be here. You got everything you need. We live in North County. I got beautiful weather. I got the best wife in the world. I got a beautiful daughter. Like, hey, man, I'm here, brother. Yeah, you know, I'm here. And that's you. And what people need to understand is how significant that is because, yes, there's a cost analysis. There's a business side of taking on cases and investing in cases and how it works out on the back end. But to have the type of success you've had with the multi-million-dollar awards and these verdicts that you guys get and not have that be a single topic of a conversation. It's always about the client that you were able to help, about their family. Man, that meant so much to me. I go to your office, I would ask you about little things by your desk before, and you mentioned one about the motorcycle family. I believe it was the same family back then. Like, that's the stuff that sticks to me. I'm like, this guy cares about his work, and you focus on your passion and the success will come. And it's a true testament to that.
Well said, man.
You know what I mean? But you live it. All I'm trying to do is call it as I see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I see you. I've known you now 15 years. I've seen this journey through law school. I've seen you ping-ponging, not in a bad way, but just dabbling in, and you have the chops to be successful in whatever area you want to go to. Like, you're tall, you're handsome, you graduate with honors, you can try a case, you can understand people, you can understand their family, you're patient as hell. You know what I mean? You have all the skills to be successful in whatever area you want to go to, but you found your niche. You found your passion that spoke to you, that gets you get out of bed in the morning for that purpose without sort of struggle or hesitation. Not because every day's easy. It's an uphill battle. You're having to meet with clients, meet them in dark, tough times. People have been injured. You got to take on a machine that always thinks your case is shit. It's not that bad. Look at that scar, small. It's healed now. They don't understand like what that person saw their face as or what that reminds them of every time, you know. And if I had to pick someone to tell that story, I'd pick you. You know what I mean?
Man.
Like, you're just, you feel it.
What
You're
a massive compliment that is coming from you, brother.
You've earned it,
Thank
bud.
you.
It's serious. And it's one of those things where I have no doubt you're going to continue to be successful.
Thanks,
so
buddy.
Tell them the new firm name, because I know it's not up and running now.
It's not. It's Aronson Braddock, AB Trial Attorneys. The firm name will be Aronson Braddock, and then we'll have some sub-branding under AB Trial Attorneys, website, SEO stuff along those lines. But Aronson Braddock are the names, and you'll begin to see the branding and the social media content and all that fun stuff coming down within the next 2 or 3 months. We're super excited to get out there and launch this new venture. I think it's been a long time coming. We all have a lot of passion and a lot of just good feeling surrounding this. And, we've kind of been blessed, a little bit of a silver lining with what's going on right now with the pandemic and the slowdown. I think Bob Simon, who's lights out great trial attorney, one of the best trial attorneys in the country up in Los Angeles, has coined the term the great pause. So we are in the middle of the great pause right now while we're all having to slow down and catch our breath a little bit. But it's given us great bandwidth to jump in and kind of see the rest of this process to the finish line, and then also now launch it and open it up and start sharing it with everyone else, which is what we're excited to do.
That's awesome, man. You going to have offices space like downtown North County, LA, or where are you guys thinking to start?
Same offices. So we actually have a beautiful Victorian in the East Village. That's our downtown presence. And, it's kind of in keeping with our firm culture. We feel like we're a family. We call ourselves the home team, so to speak. And that Victorian, it's a home. And we have the entire place. And so it's a great presence over there. Ben Bunn, who, again, one of the best plaintiffs attorneys in San Diego, he owns that building. And he had it up for sale a little while back, and it fell out of escrow. And he gave us the opportunity to come in and take over the lease on it. And we've just felt super blessed, man. Our clients love it. It's in a good location. It's a good presence for us down here. And then in North County, of course, we have offices there in North Solana Beach, right there at the, if you're from North County, it's that 2-story Victorian right there as you're going into Cardiff, like Seaside Reef area. And so that's our North County presence. And it's just those 2 offices for right now. I'm sure there'll be some more coming down the road, but for right now, that's where our presence is here in San Diego. But of course, we take cases all over the community, all over the state. We take cases all over the country, And so, like I said, I'm super excited, man. It's been really fun kind of talking about. I've gotten more excited as we've been talking about it here. So thanks for kind of bringing that out a little bit. And I firmly believe that we are going to make a difference in this community. And I feel like we already are, just going from the feedback that we're getting from the families that we're working for already. And it just inspires us to keep heading in that direction and to keep laying it down out there, practicing what we preach. So, yeah.
No, that's great. And we're gonna wrap up real shortly. Do you have any sort of daily routines or rituals or morning routines that sort of help you start your day off right? I know we talked about sort of being blessed and energy and gratitude. Do you have sort of any sort of tips and tricks about how's Josh start his day or end his day that you want to share with us?
Man, thanks so much for that question. Because I feel like it's something that is like very prominent in my life right now. Like I feel like recently, and I think we were talking a little bit about this before we got started, it's something I've really been recognizing as essential in my daily routine and in my life ultimately is how I start my day. And so you know how it is when you have a baby, man. You go through a little bit of a war zone there early on where like life just isn't what it used to be. For me, it was a little bit of a rough adjustment. I'm very like routine structured, routine oriented, and there is no routine when you have a baby at home.
Nope.
And so I was getting very little sleep, and so it took me a little while to kind of normalize, I guess, so to speak, as much as you can with the baby. And I've done this routine over my life in different spurts where I'll be like super dedicated to it and then super away from it for a period of time. And what I've noticed recently, and I'm giving you a long build up to the actual routine here, burying the lead, but when I look back on my life and I look at the times in my life that were most fruitful, most positive, just most in line with that upward trajectory, it was when I was most engaged in this routine. And what I do is I wake up at 4 a.m. and I get up and there's time for meditation. Whatever meditation you're into, there's some great apps out there. Tim Scott turned me on to the first one. It was Headspace. I still use that from time to time. It's a great app. There's some other ones out there, 10% Happier. I don't have a licensing deal or sponsorship from any of these, by the way.
If they need a face for their brand, bro,
there you go.
Contact me. I'll be his agent.
No matter which app it is, pick any of them. They all offer good stuff. And then there's also like some different like guided meditations I'll use. But it's just been phenomenal, man. I feel like nothing is able to kind of slow things down for me as good as meditation does. And by slowing things down, what we talked about earlier, like all those problems, issues, they just become smaller because your mind's not racing anymore, your heart's not beating, that anxiety starts to calm. And when you start to see them for what they are, and they're not moving like this in big circles around your mind anymore, and they just come to a stop, you can just pull that thing down and deal with it. If you need to deal with it, or if you don't, if it doesn't, nothing needs to be done on it. You just tuck it away. Like it's just there, right? So some meditation, I'll do that for like a half hour, and then some sort of devotion or spiritual reading, whatever your practice is. Everybody's different. Then I'll do a little bit of writing. I'll write some pages out, just kind of my thoughts, my dreams, my fears, my gratitude, like all that stuff. I just put it on paper, which helps me clarify my thoughts and kind of settle my mind down a little bit. And then, I'll read like 10, 15, 20 pages, sometimes 5, sometimes 2. Just about read a few pages in a book that I'm wanting to get through, whatever I'm learning from at the time. And then I got to get some exercise in. So whether it's like doing just like some simple, like low impact stretching, like yoga or something along those lines, just to like unwind the mind and kind of prepare the body for the day ahead. Or if it's getting out and catching a surf or going for a run, like whatever, like my space is on that morning, that's it. And then lately it's also been like actually focusing on like eating and diet and like intervals. My alarm went off a little bit earlier, and it's because I have to set alarms for myself throughout the day to eat, or you know how it is. We get so busy, I can go an entire day having eaten nothing. And when I do that, my blood sugar drops. I start making bad decisions. All the anxiety and bad energy creeps in, and it just kind of like starts spiraling downward. But you keep that blood sugar stable, and then also work on your energy practice, man. It just leads to more consistent, good decisions. And you want to accumulate as many of those good decisions as possible, because in the end, that's going to lead to the best results.
100%. What book are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm reading The Fifth Agreement.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a book that I just started and was recommended to me. And I could try to explain it to you, but I'm going to do a horrible job.
No worries.
Suffice it to say that it's just about learning yourself, and kind of like what your true power is, and going away from maybe lies that you've bought into, like in the past, or like negative belief systems you've developed, and instead replacing it with positive belief systems that serve you, as opposed to you serving those negative belief systems, and then ultimately bringing up yourself and everybody around you.
100%, man. But look, I appreciate your time. Now's a good time, I think, to land this plane here. You've given so much knowledge and wealth. And for all you out there who need to hear this, like, life's not perfect. We're all dealt with curveballs. We're all hit with obstacles that may be of our own choosing or not. I can tell you one thing. If you're in an injury space and you find yourself with a need, either yourself or a family member in the workplace injury, I cannot recommend this man enough. Josh Braddock will tell you, like it is from day one until the end, he will not overpromise and underdeliver. He will walk you through every step and be humble, and you'll immediately sense the loyalty and passion when you sit with him to talk about anything having to do with his practice. And you'll hear that, look, he's well-rounded. He's all about faith. Religiously, he's active in his faith on Sundays. Family comes first to him, from his parents on up to now to his beautiful wife, Hannah, and his daughter, Maggie Jo. We can't forget Django. That's his dog. He didn't get a shout-out. I brought him up.
Thanks, buddy.
Uncle Jay's got you.
You saved me there.
I got you. Don't worry. But this is a guy who he has his head on straight. He works hard. He's humble. He's got his energy work in the morning. He's got a routine that focuses him on gratitude, so he can take on that responsibility and the privilege he has to help his clients, so that he can work hard and limit the distractions, and be who he needs to be to grow his practice, provide for his family, and take care of his clients. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I personally did. It's always great to catch up with a friend, and I love checking in on people because success always leaves clues, and he was able to look back and identify a bunch of turning points for you in his life. So if you hit obstacles, push forward. You never know how close you are to success. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.